So I'm Tom Blackie, I'm CEO of VNC Automotive. We've been working in the industry for about 10 years and I did a management buyout and the company's almost 3 years old as an independent company.
My name is Philip Handschin. I'm a technical consultant here at VNC Automotive. I help our customers to take advantage of our technology as to their best abilities, and I've worked with various different tier 1 customers, but also now we're looking into the emergency fleet customers, so I work with conversion companies and directly with police forces as well. So we were fortunate enough to already have worked with customers in the US and also customers here in the UK, and from my experience we see that in the US the police car becomes really the office and their kind of command center, so they have to have like a cell to kind of arrest people and put them in the back of their car, because sometimes they're like 200-300 miles out from the actually police station. Whereas like here in the UK you have specialist cars, so like the normal car doesn't necessarily have a cell or all the equipment, and so that's definitely a key difference. Also in the US they do all their paperwork mostly in the car, so it becomes their office, and again here in the UK the police officer will be in the office and then take the car for like for going out on patrol, but then coming back to the office to filing their reports, so that there's some differences there.
So that's very much the police market. I think also the other emergency services markets, there's some differences there as well. So if you look at the fire forces in different countries, I think in the US particularly, they're very well connected, and when emergency fire vehicles are going out to a fire or a road traffic accident, they're actually gathering quite a lot of information from databases they have on hand. So plans of buildings and that sort of thing is fairly readily accessible in the US, but less so in the UK actually. So I can see the UK has a little bit of perhaps catching up to be done on that case, and yet in the health sector, when an ambulance picks someone up, for example, my impression is that in the UK they're much more integrated and they can get access to physicians and doctors remotely. So there's a kind of remote diagnostic capability, so being able to send images from ambulances back to hospitals and doctors to comment on that, and then the hospitals get prepped so the emergency room is ready for the people that are coming in, armed with more medical data of the particular patients.
So the integrated technology, our systems, it really helps them, the officers in the field to it's more convenient, because as Tom already alluded to, there's quite clunky equipment at the moment, like keyboards and swivel screens, and it's quite a lot in there. And so if you can remove all that, you get more space, and you have like a much better screen probably, because they're really high res, very good touch screens in there. So if you can take advantage of that, that's obviously very good. And then also it's seamless, the transition between using the inbuilt screen for like the aircon or any other kind of inbuilt system for the car. Everything is a central point, so there's no confusion between the police system and then the car's system. And then also it is safer in an accident. There have been incidences where officers get injured in accidents because of that extra equipment in the car, which makes it actually more unsafe. And then lastly, I would say it's for the fleet as a whole. If they have to destroy the dashboard to fit extra equipment, that will leave like holes or other things destroyed. And then if they want to resell the vehicle, it obviously devalues much more if you have that dashboard destroyed. Whereas if you can, use the OEM screen and then you don't see anything that it was ever a police car, you will be able to sell it for a higher price after the police use.
That's a really good point. I think the total cost of ownership has got to be a lot better for a more integrated solution. Definitely. I think some of the other advantages for the officers are the ability to, just work more efficiently. I think that's probably one of the big keys. And it's not just about being in the vehicle. So when you're actually outside the vehicle, the officer can actually connect back into the car from the mobile phone, for example, so that they can turn on the lights or cameras or whatever. And again, if we think about the remote telematics type capability of the vehicle, when an officer is off down the road, perhaps chasing a criminal or dealing with an incident of some sort, it'd be quite possible for the control centre, which could be a couple of 100 miles away, to actually connect into the vehicle to steer cameras. They could even make announcements across the PA system. So the officers actually have a kind of reassuring backup of some live help back from the control centre, and then of course that's all being recorded for evidence or however it might be needed in the future as well. So I think there's some really big efficiencies simply by having this kind of very well connected technology.
The connected technology we see for law enforcement is all based around the infotainment system, taking advantage of the development that is happening in the OEM cars, or like the normal cars. We see that trend of the screen becoming bigger and bigger and taking up a big part of the dashboard. And it used to be that the conversion companies could just take out the old radio and bolt on an extra screen and controls for the sirens and the lights, etc. But that is getting harder and harder because the screens and the dashboard getting more and more complicated and being an integral part of the vehicle. And so our technology enables us to take advantage of that big inbuilt screen, whereby we can then project the ANPR system or any other kind of police system that is running inside the car, to project that onto that big screen, and then also reacting to the touch event of the police officer on that screen to give them full access to the police system, to the computer system running in the back of the car. But furthermore, as we already mentioned, there are more and more apps kind of running on officers' phones, or like maybe even in the ambulance, like maybe even medical databases. So to have that instead of a phone or a smaller handheld device, we can project that onto that big screen of the nowadays cars, and to take advantage of that really good inbuilt screen to make it more comfortable and more usable for the police officer.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. That for me it's ease of use, and I think that's the technology's now become of an age that actually things can connect automatically, apps can sync with each other, data can be exchanged, whether it's wirelessly across a USB connector if you have to plug the phone in to charge it, for example, or often the PC type equipment that's in a car is connected by a local Ethernet, so some kind of network connectivity. But the crux of it for me, I think, is the software that connects all of this just works seamlessly now. And as you were saying, Phil, the big screens that are coming in the middle of cars, they're very rich, and they offer a great interface for the officers particularly. Whereas previously, old equipment the original equipment would be stripped out of the car, conversion companies would have to fit specialised boxes and screens, and you ended up with a bit of a carbuncle of a vehicle with perhaps a full keyboard and 2 or 3 screens, and quite often the passenger's seat was taken up with equipment, and it wasn't a particularly great environment. Whereas now I think the software is so integrated that all of that extraneous equipment isn't necessary anymore. So you can put everything in the trunk of the vehicle or the boot of the vehicle and basically connect it to the nice big screen. So it's about the software that connects all of that I think is really key, and it's come of age, frankly.
My take on the future is that we will see, obviously, police fleets as well going electric, because we see a huge trend already, in all vehicles going more and more electric. And as we see, electric cars are they have much more technology inside. And then obviously police cars will be able to take advantage of those technologies. We see the augmented reality coming in, where you have, a navigation system kind of really displaying arrows on the windscreen and pointing, where you have to take a turn. And obviously this can be then also used for police work, where you kind of, you have to chase someone or follow someone. Then, augmented reality can really highlight, certain vehicles on the road in front of you, which, haven't paid the tax or are actually, they're looking for that vehicle exactly. So literally can drive down the road and have everything important displayed on the windscreen itself, which then again is less distractive for the officer and can then focus more on the job at hand. That's certainly something that I see coming.
Yeah, it's interesting thinking about the future, because a lot of this has actually been almost predicted in the movies to some extent.
Yeah.
So if you look at Minority Report, for example, the advent of truly autonomous vehicles, which will come. We can debate precisely when governments might allow it, but you're going to have driverless cars at some point in time, and officers can call one up, and they can bundle some criminals into that, and that can be locked, and it can be sent off to the police station or the prison or whatever. So I think the autonomous vehicle side of things is certainly going to be something of interest to emergency services forces going forward, because to some extent it's like having another pair of hands. And, the ability to call on a driverless vehicle or several of them if there happens to be a big riot somewhere, for example. That kind of thing I think will definitely come to the fore at some point in time. I think just generally the connectivity that's going to be around, there will be more 5G and 6G coming, the ability for, I know it's a bit Big Brother-ish, but, cameras everywhere, whether they're body-worn cameras or cameras on vehicles or buildings, that really integrated system where, you have face recognition and, criminals can be identified, almost instantly. I think that kind of thing will come at some point in time. It's only a matter of when. It does, of course, then beg a big question about privacy, and then you get into security questions. How do you ensure this data isn't misused? But there's certainly plenty of people looking at that sort of thing, and I'm sure it will be solved, and probably for the better, I think, just as a society, actually, being able to preemptively, with the aid of artificial intelligence, to stop crimes before they actually happen. And I think the other element is, of course, with the autonomous driving and the vehicle assistance, I think the number of accidents that we will start to see will drop off significantly. I think the insurance industry in particular has has seen quite a dramatic change over the years. Everything from when ABS was it was first pioneered, of course, in the race industry, in Formula One, etc. But eventually, all of that advanced technology sort of seeps down into consumer vehicles, and then it becomes, instead of a premium feature, it's just ubiquitous in every car, and that's actually cut down accidents. And we're starting to see more of the technology, autonomous vehicle technology, being used right now. Things like lane deviation warning systems, automatically braking and avoiding going into the back of the car in front of you. These are already contributing to the number of accidents and the severity of accidents. So, the insurance industry is seeing a rapid reduction in claims, and the particularly high value of claims. The number of deaths on the road are reducing, and it's all down to technology, and that's only going to improve, actually. So, I think it's a pretty exciting time for the industry, frankly, going forward.
Yeah. Talking of autonomy, I think also drones will take a part in the maybe more with ambulances. We already see kind of transportation of maybe blood or really critical stuff from one hospital to the other for by autonomous drones, and I can see them even delivering critical medical equipment directly onto the motorway where the accident happened, or then being basically stationed on the police car itself to then maybe explore a scene or go back to headquarters with evidence or something like that. I think it's definitely something that will...
Yeah, well, I mean, again, you only need to look at that sort of drone technology being used, particularly in the military. They already have drones that can, perhaps carry the equivalent of 3 or 4 people, whether it's people or equipment, but they can actually get that kind of equipment out into a battle zone, for example, completely autonomously, right to the troops on the ground. And you can see that same kind of technology being used in road traffic accidents, for example. Yeah. So you might get the fire service there very quickly, but they might not have the right piece of equipment to possibly cut the roof off a car or something. Whereas they can call up a drone system that could then deliver that piece of equipment right to the scene. And similarly, medical devices could be delivered very quickly as well. So I think, there's a lot of interesting technology there. And, similarly, you could bundle up, a sick passenger or something like that, and, there could be high-speed drone very effectively back to the medical centre. And it's probably a lot cheaper than current helicopter type technology. So I think there's a lot of savings financially and potentially saving extra lives and things as well.